Okay.
I think we should delve headfirst into Psycho. So, Psycho. Let's start at the very beginning with the very opening shot, because as a director myself, albeit not in the league of Alfred Hitchcock, can I just establish that I'm not equating myself with him
Too
at all.
modest, darling.
Oh, darling. But the opening shot is sublime. We start off with this panning shot across Phoenix, Arizona, and we head towards a tower block, a hotel block, whatever it is. We go through the window and we settle on Marion and Sam. And that opening shot in itself is, well, Hitchcock is just the master at those kind of shots. I mean, how he did that, I do not know.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And here we have Marion and Sam in this dodgy hotel that's clearly rented by the hour, who've been having a little afternoon tryst. And first of all, how hot is Sam? I know we're not supposed to objectify, but oh my God, he's so hot.
Sink down to this level immediately. It's what our gazers expect, isn't it?
Wow, yeah.
He is hot. Can I just talk about Sam really quickly before we go?
Please
do.
do.
So Sam's married, isn't he?
Yes.
So this is an extramarital affair in 1960 and quite sexy. I mean, we don't see any bums or tits or anything like that, but she's undressed in her bra and whatever, and throughout the course of the scene gets dressed, etc. So that in itself, and immediately painted as the wanton single woman knocking off a married man that he swears he's going to start a new life with her, leave his wife, etc. But Sam, who is really hot, and
Did we say that?
You would, you totally would. He's played by John Gavin. Now he's really interesting actor, John Gavin, because he was James Bond.
Not Jimmy. Oh, in the Walking.
No, he was signed up for the role of James Bond for the film Diamonds Are Forever after George Lazenby left the role. However, David Picker, who was the head of United Artists, wanted the box office assurance of Sean Connery. So Gavin's contract was honoured despite him losing the role to Sean Connery, so he was still paid. So he was signed up and announced as James Bond.
Wow, gosh.
I mean, you can see it, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to have
I'd watch
John...
I'd watch him in anything, to be honest.
Yeah, to have John Gavin as James Bond. So then, according to Roger Moore's James Bond diary, Gavin was slated to play Bond in Live and Let Die, but then Harry Saltzman insisted on a British actor for the role, and Moore was given the part.
Wow, gosh.
So they said to him, okay, we'll pay you for this movie, but we're getting Sean Connery in, we'll get you into the next one. But then they wanted Roger Moore instead, so he was the Bond that never was.
Wow, gosh. Now, thinking about this scene, let's think about comparing to Pillow Talk, which was 2 years earlier, and its representations of sex on screen. This must have felt, I mean, just astonishing to see. It's very open in its depiction of sex between adults, isn't it? And as you say, Janet Leigh's walking around in her bra, which is again going to become a theme later on. The fact that they've had an afternoon shag, clearly. The fact that he's married, the fact that she's got to go back to work, it's racy. It's proper racy. And I think the audience would probably have looked at her and thought slut, but Hitchcock doesn't. No. It's just presented as these two people because she wants to break it off. And she's saying she doesn't want to have a secret anymore. And I'll come back to the idea of secrets in this film in a bit. And it's just astonished me that that's how he opens this film, so immediately we are given very broad strokes about the Marion Crane character, aren't we? Just astonishing.
Yeah. So then Marion, we're not too sure in the first scene who we're supposed to be following. Is it Marion or is it Sam? I mean, you would imagine in movies like this, then we'd go ahead and follow Sam, but we follow Marion instead. And Marion is immediately presented with like a moral dilemma, at work. She gets given 40 grand from her employer to put in the bank, but instead decides to steal it and leave town. So it's obvious now that, this is Marion's story here.
Yeah.
So she gets in a car, leaves town, and that's what Hitchcock does here. He kind of builds our association with Marion, and we're supposed to, because subliminally we're told, she is the main character in this story, so we're going to like her because she wants to leave her humdrum existence and go out into the world. Yeah. So even though she's a criminal, we're kind of already rooting for Marion here.
Now, to think back to The Office, again, this is when... Did you realise that the girl who plays her colleague was Hitchcock's daughter?
Was it?
Yeah. But again, we get this idea of secrets. So Marion's going to nick this money, but she's already got this secret affair going on. Her colleague secretly takes tranquilizers on the sly. Tom, the guy who comes in with his $46,000, he doesn't want it declared. So it's the whole thing. And then later on, Norman's going to be a whole barrel of secrets. So secrets are one of the things in this film that we're already getting in this sequence before Marion even gets in the car, you know. Yeah. And then, as you say, off she goes.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, the sequence when she's driving, because we don't really get a lot of the scenery. We're really tightly in on the shot on her. So we're just following everything. But as a kind of storytelling device, we get all the voices in her head of she's imagining what's happening back at the office. They discover this money's missing. Where's Marion and stuff? So it really plays into this kind of psychology like Hitchcock does really well. It's a tight shot on Marion driving, but we've got all these imaginary voices in her head telling us what the story is.
I mean, I love her. It happens in Pillow Talk as well. It's a real common trope of the time, isn't it? But I love the idea of driving along, just having, but what they're going to say about you, Lee? They're all going to talk about you, Lee. But you're supposed to come back to the office. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? So then we arrive at the Bates Motel.
We do.
Yes,
we do.
I mean, via a series of other scenes, but let's get to the Bates Motel.
Yeah.
So it's isolated. It's in a rainstorm, so immediately we're kind of put on edge there. And the Bates house overlooks the motel from a hill, and the house is inspired by the painting House by the Railroad.
Edward Hopper, isn't it?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. I mean, you went to the Universal Studios, didn't you? Did you see the house?
Yes, saw the house, saw the motel.
Thrill.
And everything.
What a thrill.
Yeah, I mean, I was very young at the time. I don't think I even...
Yeah, of course.
What's really interesting is I've not even seen Psycho then, but I knew the hotel, the image of the hotel and the house. So Psycho was even in kids' consciousnesses in the 80s when I went, even though I'd never seen the film. You just know. Isn't it weird?
It's an icon.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, we meet Norman, beautiful Auntie Perkins. Norman's very charming. Marion and Norman have this amazing scene of dialogue when he makes her a sandwich. And just some of the lines really struck me. He says to her, "You've never had an empty moment in your life, have you?" And inferring that he has. And then he goes on to say, "We're all in our private traps, clamped in them, and none of us can ever get out." And so we get Norman saying this, talking about, obviously he's in this private trap with his mother. He's trapped by her. And then he says, we all go a little mad sometimes, which has become famous. Now, a modern audience would be like, get out now, get out, Marion. Yeah. But obviously for 1960... we just see this lovely young man, you know, who's got always mother's a bit of a nightmare, you know, but he seems really nice. He likes stuffing animals, which is a weird hobby, but everyone's got to have a hobby, as he says. Yeah. You know, and yeah, I thought that scene was so cleverly done in the sense that it's laying out, it's so multi-layered, the dialogue and just their relationship, and Marion's taking on board what he's saying to her, and that's when she starts to think, shit, have I done the right thing here? You know, am I going to have to go back? And I think one thing I hadn't realised is that actually Bates Motel is so close to where she was going. So she almost got to Fairview, where Sam, be still my beating heart, lives, but she doesn't quite make it, does she? You know, it's so...
Yeah, it's really interesting, that scene, because Norman comes across as a sympathetic character, albeit a little bit weird, which doesn't ring alarm bells in Marion.
No.
It's like almost, I mean, I don't know if it's comforting to her to have this person who's not a male authority figure who's aggressive or is dominant of her. You know, she can just kind of listen to him going on and stuff while she's going through her own inner turmoil, all the while being overlooked by these taxidermy stuffed birds and things.
Watching her. Voyeurism is such a key thing of this film, isn't it?
Someone else who's watching her when she goes into her room is Norman through a peephole.
Yes.
So then we really start to think about what this film's about.
Yes. And of course, we have been introduced to Mother by this point, because she hears Norman going up to the house and he hears this conversation, and Mother's going, "You've got some slut down there," you know, all this stuff. So we think, okay, Mother's a bit crazy, before he comes back with his cheese sandwich for her. And so then we get the shower scene.
Yes.
I mean, it's classic. It's been lampooned, spoofed, copied so many times, but what an absolute masterpiece of filmmaking, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. So in the shower scene, there were around 70 different... There were around several... Sorry. So in the shower scene, there were around 70 different camera setups, which for one scene is absolutely amazing. And there are more than 50 cuts in the edit.
Gosh. More than 50 cuts in the edit.
Yeah. And there are more than 50 cuts in the edit. So, but we never actually see the knife make contact with the skin.
Yeah.
There's very, very little blood as well.
Yeah.
But it's all in the performances, in the fear in Janet Leigh's face.
Yes, absolutely.
So, oh, for fuck's sake.
They probably don't pick up on it, to be honest. No, we usually do. Had you finished? Do you want to say that again? No. And of course, the music is just, the music is only strings, famously. And it's genuinely unnerving when she's in the shower and you see through the curtain, the door open behind her, the figure come in who we think is the mum, shower curtain comes back, front backlit, so you can't see obviously the face, but you just see an old woman ostensibly. And then, as you say, you've got this scene which is just, it's visceral. Yeah, it's brutal, isn't it?
It really is.
Even though, and it's a body double for a lot of it, I think.
Well, the thing is, it took 7 days to shoot.
Wow,
because of all those setups. So I mean, you can't have Janet Leigh, your star, naked in the shower for all that time. So they must have used doubles. But yeah, the music was composed by Bernard Herrmann. Obviously, it's just become iconic, hasn't it? Chocolate syrup was used as blood.
Right.
Yes.
Gosh. And then Marion's killed, slumps over the side of the bath, camera closes, the camera starts on her eye and does a slow pan out. Now, I tried to keep my eye open for as long as Janet Leigh does in that moment. I couldn't without blinking. I mean, it's incredible, really. Yeah. But what you're just left as a viewer, it's like, what the fuck happened? Yeah. We've just killed off the woman who we thought the film was going to be about. You know, where is this going to go? It must have been so unsettling for the viewer at the time. And then we get Norman come in and has to clean it up. And what struck me is that the way he cleans up afterwards is done so casually and so naturally that it just, again, it kind of struck back, I think, about the banality of evil. Have you heard of that? It's like, they talked about it a lot after the Nuremberg trials in Nazi Germany, that people committing the most horrible things, but just in this everyday matter-of-fact way. So evil is rarely, I'm going to kill you. It's just people getting on with it.
More of a disassociation, really.
Yeah, just doing a job, if you like. And that's very much what we get the sense of here. Norman has clearly done this before, but just the way he's just able to scrub things, he just gets on with it.
Well, we're kind of left, aren't we, at this point, it's the mother that's done it.
Yes.
And so here's Norman again. So
Yeah.
we kind of presume this isn't the first time that Norman's had to do this, that his mother's gone psycho.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh, here we go again, matter-of-factly, clearing it all up.
Exactly. Yeah. Mother's been again.
Mother's been again.
Yeah.
And then he puts Marion in the car and tries to sink the car in the swamp.
Yes.
Now, the really good kind of fear technique here from Hitchcock is that it goes down and we think it's going to go down and then it stops. So that immediately the audience is just like, oh, shit. So at that point there, you start rooting for Norman. It's like you want the car to sink. Isn't it weird how it just flips? Like you were rooting for Marion, to go and be with her hot lover with all this money. She's dead. Okay, what do we do now? Who do we attach ourselves to now? Well, you're going to attach yourself to Norman and you're going to root for him.
Absolutely, yeah.
Crazy when you think about it.
It's ridiculous, yeah.
So then, this is kind of the next act, isn't it? The investigation begins. We've got Marion's sister, Lila Crane. So she begins searching for her, and she works with Marion's boyfriend, Sam, and a private investigator, Arbogast.
Yes.
And Lila is played by Vera Miles,
Who will reappear in Psycho 2. Yes, which is a great film as well. Yeah.
That's really interesting, isn't it? It's at one point it's this really intense psychological headfuck, but then it kind of turns into a crime investigation film. Yeah. Like, kind of almost film noirish.
Yeah.
With, the hard-boiled private detective.
Yeah.
They assume at first it's Sam who's responsible for Marion's disappearance because the sister is, she was supposed to come and see me and she never did. And where is she? And you've got something to do with it. You're having an affair with her. And, got this hard-boiled detective. So then Arbogast, who's the detective, he tracks Marion's route down to the Bates Motel, and immediately we think, oh shit, he's in trouble, isn't he?
Yes, yeah, and there's that scene that Arbogast and Norman have together, and when Arbogast leaves, Norman gives a smile which is genuinely chilling, because you think, hang on a second, it's a smile that shows I've got away with it. And then, whereas a viewer, we are like, oh, hang on a second. I thought we were supposed to like Norman. What's going on? It's so clever the way it just gently manipulates you into... By the way, I think Lila and Sam make a fucking great team. Yeah. They both equally drive the plot forward. They've both got so much agency. It could have so easily just been Sam. Yeah. And Lila could have been the typical female companion. No, she's just as gutsy, just as driven, well, she wants to find out what's happened to her sister. Yeah. And then they go to see the sheriff, don't they?
They do. But meanwhile, the private detective is killed on the staircase.
Yeah. So... And that is a shock. That's a jump scare. So he's walking up the stairs, Arbogast, really, really kind of the tension's building. Then we get an above shot, don't we? And you just see the figure of Norman,
the mother,
fleeing out and just stabbing him, and then you get that fall down the stairs, which is just... I remember the first time I watched Psycho, that was a genuine, oh my god, it was a real jump scare when that happened.
Yeah, it's the one part of the film which I thought, actually, it was a bit style over substance. Now, I'm not one to criticise
Hitchcock,
the master at work, but it was very elongated shots, and it was very fake.
Yes.
Because it was him, it was used with stunt work, and it was rear projection and all that kind of thing. But it takes him an absolute age to fall backwards down the stairs. Yeah. And I just thought, actually, when you've spent 7 days filming this masterpiece scene of Janet Leigh being stabbed in the shower, etc., to then go from that to this shot, which just felt a little bit... It took you out of the picture a little bit.
Right. I wondered if it was the convention of the time, because he does the same thing with James Stewart in Rear Window.
Right.
Exactly the same kind of falling with the camera going a very slow fall. So maybe it was the convention. Yeah. But certainly the bit when she runs out and just stabs him. Boy, I nearly shot myself.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Lila and Sam, dream team, have met the sheriff. And then this is when we get the first hint that things aren't really as we think they are in
Yes.
Bates Motel, because he refers to that bad business out there about 10 years ago. And then we get the news that Norman's mother is actually dead. And she's been dead for 10 years. And that actually was a suicide murder with her lover. And that Norman found his mother and the lover in bed dead. I mean, as a viewer, you're like, hang on a second. What? Hang on, we've met mother. We've heard her.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
So then Lila and Sam arrive at Bates Motel and things take a turn.
I mean, there's that scene with Sam and Norman, which I was getting a bit hot under the collar. So Lila's gone up to the house to investigate on herself, like Daphne from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Come on, Lila. Yeah. Sam and Norman are having a little bit of a... At one point, Norman says, I'd do anything to get away. And it struck me, it seemed quite gay-coded. I mean, you know what the gays are like. We like to put that's gay, but it felt the kind of tension between, and imagining...
Well, Hitchcock knew that Perkins was gay.
Yes, yeah.
During this.
Yes, yeah.
And it does feel queer-coded.
Yes.
And I think that was possibly intentional. Here you've got two very good-looking men, one conventionally beautiful in Sam, and Anthony Perkins is a good-looking man, but he's not conventionally good-looking, is he? And he's awkward. He plays it awkwardly and stuff. So you could see it's like, take me away from all this daddy kind of vibe.
Oh, God, yeah. And then, of course, we get the big reveal. Yes. So Lila has gone to the house. She's gone down to the cellar. And, is that Norma sitting with her back to the camera on a rocking chair? Is it rocking? I can't remember if it's rocking. No,
it's not rocking.
No.
But...
And then Lila spins the body around and it's the mummified corpse of Norma. Cue Lila doing that classic thing, flinging her hand back, screaming, knocks the light, so we get this swinging light, and then Norman appears dressed as mother in the doorway with a knife and goes to attack
with
her.
A manic look on his face. That was genuinely chilling, because you thought at that point, Lila's done for.
Yes.
She's going to get murdered.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Sam comes in. I knew he was a good man.
Yeah.
Overpowers Norman, dressed as his mother.
Yeah.
And there we have it.
And then we get this kind of cod psychiatric coda, which tries to kind of explain. So Norman's in custody. We get this psychiatrist. I mean, psychology is still relatively in its infancy at this point, but it seems like a down pat explanation that it's a really simplistic rendering of a complicated medical condition, but I guess it's 1960. There's a lot of cod psychology going on. It kind of reminded me of the similar kind of thing with Michael Myers in Halloween, that they have this cod explanation for why he's the way it is. I don't think it adds anything to the film.
I don't think it adds anything to the film. I think it would just been better just to see Norman in his cell. Yeah,
or because that final shot is of Norman listening, but he Norman mother's voice in his head, and there's a fly on his arm, isn't there? Thinking, "Why, I wouldn't even hurt a fly, would I?" And then Norman just gives this little smile, which is chilling. Chilling it is.
Which is kind of alluded to in this psychological explanation that, Norman murdered his mother and her lover years earlier out of jealousy. And after the murders, he was overwhelmed with guilt. So to cope psychologically, he preserved his mother's body and began internalizing her personality. So over time, the mother personality became dominant and would emerge whenever Norman felt sexual attraction towards women.
And Norman no longer exists as you knew him. It's all Norman now. It's like, right. But then,
But I wonder if Hitchcock thought that the audience needed a release to kind of be like, they're like, what the fuck's just happened? They needed that kind of, that pressure steam to be let off. Like, this is what's happened. And then Hitchcock just fucks with them again when they see this slow zoom in on
Yeah.
Norman just being
And then a quick
fucked.
overlay with the skull on his face as he's smiling. Then last shot is the car, Marion's car being dredged from the lake, isn't it? Norman going, why he wouldn't even hurt a fly. I mean, end film.
Yeah.
Traumatised audience, jobs are good. Now, there are some specific problems with Psycho. First of all, was Hitchcock a dick? Because he's got a bit of a bad rep. If you ask Tippi Hedren, yes, absolutely he was a cock. She did The Birds, obviously, with him, and Marnie. Hitchcock tries it on with her. And then when she rebuffs him, he basically tries to control her socially and professionally. It gets very vindictive, her rejection, and he basically ends her career. He doesn't release her from, he persuades the studio not to release her from contract she's under, and then not to give her any work. However, Janet Leigh never had a problem with him. She found him professional, liked his dry sense of humour. She admired the fact that he was so protective of the secrecy of the film. She said he was demanding but not inappropriate. There were no sexual hints. But Kim Novak and Vera Miles, who plays Norma's sister, Marion's sister, both found him a little bit possessive, fixated, and very controlling about their appearances. Hitchcock famously had a thing about blondes, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And his blondes, he was a little bit over-involved with everything. Their styling, their behaviour, the way their makeup was done. We just got to remember that Hitchcock is very much, directors in those days had a huge amount of power. So, but his behaviour with some of his female stars certainly raised eyebrows at the time. But that's not to say not a great filmmaker. There are some very specific issues of the film, though. Dissociative identity disorder, which was then framed as the split personality. Now, we've talked about this. 1960, there's very limited understanding of it. There's the idea that you genuinely change your personality and you can have all this stuff. So... but what happens is that Psycho is one of the first films that gives the idea that mentally ill people are inherently dangerous. So the term psycho becomes a thing. Psychological abnormality basically means that you're going to kill people. So it stigmatizes mental illness for quite a long time. And that explanation at the end, Mr. Norman no longer exists as you know him, feels a little bit, it reduces this complex condition into this little...
Into Hollywood,
exactly. There's obviously quite a lot of trans adjacent reading of the film. Norman does dress up as his mother in his mother's outfits. And the image of that is often conflated with trans identity. And again, we've talked about how the trans woman or a transvestite as a figure of repulsion, as a figure of suspicion. Think of Dressed to Kill, that Michael Caine film. Think of Silence of the Lambs, So this is the first time this becomes a trope, if you like. Is Marion punished for her sexuality? Is that why she's killed off halfway through? Often, and it shows that often female characters are just used to narrate, to fuel the narrative as opposed to actually come to mean anything. So we've had this story and then suddenly that story's gone in order to propel the plot onto Norman. It's very male gazy, literally. We are invited to spy, to judge, to participate. Very intentional, but implicates all the viewers in a male controlling gaze looking at the film. And we get this idea that what's normal and what's abnormal. So the world of law, psychiatry and social audit is presented as the norm and it's corrective, while any deviation, sexual, psychological, domestic, is the monstrous. So that thing what we were talking about earlier, that Norman looks normal, but actually is not. He's monstrous because he dresses up in his mother's clothes.
Right.
But within this domestic setting that people know.
Yeah.
So
do you think that's transcoded, or is that just a modern interpretation?
Yeah,
of what's
it is.
happening,
And I think
it?
we can push back against a lot of this, actually, because yes, Marion dies halfway through, but I didn't view it
That's
as a
a story
moralistic
device,
punishment.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is Hitchcock. You said earlier, this is him destabilizing
Yeah.
the norms of storytelling. And
And
I think it's a genius move.
yeah, and like you said, even though Marion for 1960 standards, moral standards or moral code has questionable morals,
Yes.
you're still rooting for her.
Yeah.
It doesn't define her.
Absolutely,
You
yeah.
know?
She's not the Scarlet Woman, which other films would definitely present her
Yeah.
as. You're absolutely right. Yes, Norman's dissociative identity disorder is that's really difficult to say out of a glass of wine. It's used for suspense. It's used for. It's not intended as a clinical case study, and it's 1960 knowledge of the condition. So yeah, I can push back against that as well. It's not a violent film.
No.
The violence is implied, as you say. We never see the knife entering skin. The shower scene is all about the editing of it, the sound of it, and it's a fucking groundbreaking film.
It's progressive in a lot of ways, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like say, the first, well, not the first, but very unusual depiction of extramarital sex. The portrayal of mental illness, however naive and, with psychology in its kind of infancy at this point, or understanding of that particular mental illness, which is an extreme manifestation of mental illness and stuff. So it's groundbreaking in that respect. And look, if we criticise Psycho for having a psychotic knifeman with mummy issues, then we'll have to criticise almost every single slasher movie that comes after
Halloween,
it.
Friday the 13th, when it's actually the mother who's doing the killing first. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and just the way it plays with narrative structure, the camera techniques you've talked about, the filming of it, it's a fine looking film,
But also, can I just interject on that point? It looked quite TV movie,
right,
in a way. Now, I'm not using that as a criticism at all. It's a very crisp picture. It's a lot of the scenes are quite overly lit. But I think that's because he used his TV crew, and with the budget they had, they did film it quite TV-like as opposed to filming. I think that like the cinematic elements of it were the exterior shots of the Bates Motel in the rain, and the house on the hill, etc. But a lot of it felt quite studio-based to me, and there was a crispness. It almost looked like video as opposed to film to it. But that's probably because nowadays you see films as they were intended to be seen. They were shot on film, but a lot of the cinema projections of the time didn't have the technical capabilities to show it in that crispness. So when you look at it in kind of like a 4K or Ultra HD version, it does look quite crisp. So yeah, it's really interesting. But it did. I wondered why it didn't look filmic in some aspects, and then I heard it was shot by the crew of his TV series. So I just wondered if that's it, or psychologically I've just thought, okay,
right.
But yeah, it's really interesting, and I'm not degrading the film at all, or pouring scorn over it.
Yes,
it's fantastic.
Yeah, and so where the film stands today, we've said classic, iconic. Its influence outweighs certain of the dated conventions of it, I think. The general consensus is it's artistically amazing, culturally revealing, morally complicated, and historically essential. And in 1960,
some more wine.
Sam. In 1960, it probably felt incredibly transgressive. Today, that kind of feels foundational, in terms of horror cinema, in terms of general cinema. It's obviously not without some criticism of elements of it, but I think it's just the sum of it is just too massive to.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic film.
Yeah.
It's great. Loved
Yeah.
it. Loved it. Okay.
Loved it.
I think we've rinsed Psycho.
Rinsed Psycho is a question for our listeners at home. Does Psycho challenge 1960s morality, or does it reinforce it?
Oh, intriguing.
Intriguing. Want to get your thinking
caps on, darlings.
Yeah. So, with all that being said, what would you give this out of 10, and what out of 10?
I would give it 9 shower caps out of 10.
Right.
Yes, because, I mean, you know, perfection is the ruination of good, isn't it? You can't be perfect.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why.
Yeah. I'm going to give it 9.5 mummified corpses out of 10, just for that final little cod explanation at the end. Didn't need it, and I thought would have felt just much more unsettled without it. We don't need an explanation, but as you say, fucking brilliant film.
Yes.
Brilliant film.
Yeah.
Just great. So we've got a bit of a swerve
We
for
have.
our next episode. Yes, we are, because we are going towards the end of the millennium. And we're going to explore masculinity, because we've done quite a lot of films recently on womanhood, types of womanhood. Think of Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill, The Worm That Turned, and obviously Psycho. So let's have a look at the boys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, there has been a Netflix documentary, which I haven't seen yet, Louis Theroux, on the manosphere.
That's right, there has. I haven't seen it either.
Oh, so we might have to watch that before we do next week. But on a we're delving into very similar territory, aren't we? Or albeit a kind of turn of the millennium version.
And an almost innocent version compared to what we have today. Because we are going back to 1999 for some millennial angst, and we're looking at Fight Club.
Fight Club. I don't know if I can be asked to watch just men fighting.
It's Brad Pitt with his top off.
Oh, okay. I'm in.
So yeah, look forward to that, gazers. In the meanwhile, that was lovely. I really enjoyed that. What a great movie.
What a great movie. So in the meantime, if you are craving some extra problematic gaze, don't forget to tune into our Problematic Gazette episode on Saturday. If you want to look at our socials, we're at Podcast Gaze on Instagram and TikTok.
Yes, you can email us at theproblematicgaze@gmail.com and check out our YouTube channel, the Gaze channel.
Yes.
JZE, obviously. Please get in touch with us. We love hearing from you, so we're not just shouting in the void like two angry old puffs. Please do. And leave us a review if you feel like it.
Yeah, good one.
Makes sense. Yeah, good one, obviously, because you know what will happen if you don't.
Yes.
Right, I'm off to dig up me mammy's dead corpse and put her in my basement. What are you going to do?
Well, Sam's just called. He wants to meet me in a hotel room.
You slag!
What's a girl to do?
Until next time, au revoir.
Au reservoir.
Bitch.